While most students joined the academy early, our young lad Almark arrived 2 years late, having spent that time on northern battlefields alongside his mercenary father. The intensity of the war has slowly declined in the south for over 100 years, but in the north, it shows new signs of slowing down, and the people have been in the war for countless years without any clear result. The leading country in the war keeps changing, and many people have lost their lives without any gain. Amidst the chaos, all the mercenaries have naturally gathered in the north. Almark's father, Rais, was working in the north as the vice captain of the Black Wolf Cavalry, a well-equipped military unit. When Almark was 5 years old, he met Yorg for the first time in his life. The mercenaries always kept moving from one place to another, and it was common practice for them to have new employers in battlefields. At the time, the Black Wolf Cavalry was passing through the buffer zone between the Filan Kingdom, where minor clashes had been going on for years, and the same had happened in the Kingdom of Gilbar. During their march, one of the soldiers comments on how the area is very peaceful. At his comment, Ray shouts at him, saying that they are here for an investigation, so he should stay attentive. The man quickly apologizes as they hear the sound of people running and gets ready to face any situation. Suddenly, an old man who's being chased falls to the ground, saying that he doesn't possess any gold, but no one believes him because of his rich appearance. Rais recognizes the group as fallen mercenaries and bandits, and the soldier comments on how there are almost 30 of them, which a single person can't handle. Since they already know that the Gilbar army is deployed ahead, Rais decides to quickly get rid of the group so they can continue their journey. He tells his soldiers to go ahead just as the goons get hold of the old man and smugly say how he has made this chase very difficult for them. One of them playfully mentions how they will make sure his nice clothes will not get dirty with blood, but he doesn't get a chance to follow through with his plans as they get attacked by mercenaries. Rais and his group get rid of some of the goons while the rest of them run away from there. Once the chaos subsides, the old man approaches and thanks them for saving him. Accepting the gratitude, Rais tells the old man not to wander around here alone because this place is going to become a battlefield soon. He then shouts at his team to stop robbing the dead bodies and counts his soldiers, irritated at how a soldier named Weiner got killed. Everyone listens to him silently as Rais announces that they will move a little further, as it will be to their advantage if they can see the Gilbar army. Soon, the soldiers are settled on their horses, ready to leave from there, when Rais turns toward the old man and says that if he can wait here for some time, the main unit will soon reach him. If he wants to continue traveling alone, he should just say the name Rais and get on the carriage. The old man is a little worried, but Rais assures him that it is okay for him to do that, and there are women and children, so they can even travel together until the border. Rais and his army finally leave from there, and after wandering around for a bit, they return to their camp. As Rais reaches the camp, one of the guards says that it must be very tiring for him. Rais replies that he was hoping to find the Gilbar army, but there were no signs of them, so for now they will continue to move forward and secure the supply line for the Filan army. Just then, a woman comes there looking angry at Rais as she tells him how a strange old man mentioned his name to get on the carriage. Rais replies that he knows the person and asks about his location, to which the woman tells him that the old man is staying beside the carriage. Rais thanks her for telling him this and then leaves so he can talk to the old man. When Rais reaches there, the old man's almost asleep while sitting on the chair and wakes up upon hearing his voice. After the formal greeting, Rais offers him the soup he brought and then takes a seat beside him. As they both drink the soup, the old man again thanks him for rescuing him and then introduces himself as Yorg. Rais also introduces himself properly, and Yorg continues the conversation, saying how he wants to repay him to show his gratitude. At his offer, Rais bursts into laughter and asks if he can do something. Yorg explains that he belongs to the Garai Kingdom, which is a great southern nation, and he is the headmaster at the Nork Magic Academy. Rais continues to laugh hysterically at his explanation and is sure that the old guy is joking. Ignoring his laughter, Yorg continues, saying that he is traveling around places to find talented children and can understand if Rais is finding it hard to believe him. Yorg is alone on this journey, as his staff was killed during this journey, so he can only show a small magic trick. He picks up a stone from the ground and throws it into the air, turning it into a bird. Rais finally starts to believe him and says that he is familiar with the name of Nork Magic Academy. He heard that anyone who has a talent for magic can get into this academy to receive an education, and when a student graduates, they will surely be successful. With a contented smile, Yorg says that everything he knows is true, and he will share some more information with him. The Magic Academy is located on Yorg Island, which is a part of the Garai Kingdom. Students can enter the academy at 9 and spend 6 years there, 3 in the elementary division and 3 in the middle division. After graduating as magicians, they can study for 3 more years in the advanced division to specialize further. The magic bird returns to Yorg while Rise thinks about the information he got and asks if only talented students can join the academy. After Yorg's confirmation, he says that he wants to ask something about his son. Yorg is surprised to hear this, as Rise continues that his son, Almark, will be 5 soon, and his mother passed away while giving birth to him. He raised Almark alone, but he is very shy and lazy. Being a mercenary is a tough job since you can't trust anyone except yourself, and he is sure that if his son also chooses the same path as him, he will die before the age of 15. Rise knows that his son has no talent for magic, but if he can still move to the south, he won't have to see any more wars and can live his life peacefully. Bowing a little, he almost begs Yorg to let his son join the Magic Academy. Yorg politely says that the situation is very strange because he was the one who got rescued, but Rise bows his head instead. He then adds that before making any decision, he wants to meet Almark first. They go back to the camp, where women are cooking food, and Rise spots his son near the bonfire. When Almark notices his father, he excitedly runs to greet him, but as soon as Yorg greets him, he gets scared and clings to his father's leg. Rise gently asks his son if he is okay and says that the old man is a good person, but Almark doesn't move. The mercenary starts to get annoyed at his son's timid behavior, but Yorg is not bothered by it as he squats down to Almark's level and notes that the child is probably this cautious because of how intelligent he is. He then apologizes to Almark, who still looks scared, but Rise pushes him forward, assuring him that he will be fine. Yorg slowly raises his hand, which scares the child again, but when Rise shouts at him to be brave, he slowly takes a step forward toward the old man. Again raising his hand, Yorg touches Almark's hair and pulls his hand away when he notices something. Shocked by the situation, Yorg mentions how he has met so many talented children, but no one had the potential that Almark has. The compliment makes Rise happy, who rubs his son's head, praising him for it. Yorg continues that with Almark's talent, he will also get hold of the sword very early and will be a great mercenary in the future. Rise is not happy with the suggestion as he argues that swordsmanship is not the only thing for being a mercenary. A person needs to have a strong mind to survive alone without depending on anyone. He doesn't think his son can survive alone, no matter how strong he is. Yorg understands his points and tells him to bring Almark to the academy when he is 9 years old. As he writes the directions to the academy in the small notebook, he comments on how Almark is going to be a great magician one day. Rise assures the old man that he will send his son to the academy and then kisses Almark's head, saying how happy he is. Soon after that, the 3 of them travel to the border to say goodbye to Yorg, who thanks Rise for his help. He then kneels in front of Almark and says how he will wait for the day when they can meet again in 4 years. Rise playfully tells him to remember the person who helped him as both the father and son wave goodbye. The years passed quickly after that, and Almark became an excellent swordsman. Just like Yorg had predicted, Rise has never taught his son about the sword, but Almark trained by himself using the large sword that his father doesn't use. He remained very timid and quiet, but with time his eyes started to look stronger and more intelligent. One day, when Almark was 8 years old, the main force went out for battle against the Morrisville cavalry, leaving the women behind in the camp. Taking advantage of their vulnerability to enemy soldiers, they attacked the main base, and since they were strong warriors, they killed 5 people in no time. One of the soldiers states how the base camp is very vulnerable because the main force is away. His partner agrees with him, saying how their strong effort has paid off. Just then, a woman cries for help, and the soldier taunts that no one is there to save her. Suddenly, Almark strikes from behind, severing the soldier's sword hand. The battle with the Morrisville Knights ends inconclusively, and when the main force returns, they hear of Almark's bravery. Rise, nursing a hand injury, is surprised by his son's actions. Captain Gilles suggests taking Almark to the battlefield to test his abilities, but Rise objects, arguing that while Gilles became a warrior at 12, 8 is too young for Almark. Gilles argues that if Almark can fight, he can also participate in the war, but this time Rise doesn't say anything in reply. Just then, Almark comes to the medical camp and asks his father if he has any injuries from the war. Before Rise can reply to him, Gilles excitedly praises the lad's bravery. Almark is smiling happily at the praise when Rise approaches him and asks if he would like to join the battlefield during the spring. Almark agrees with his father, and soon the spring comes when he turns 9 years old. The situation for mercenaries on the battlefield became harsher, and Reyes couldn't leave in such a situation. Instead of starting his classes at the Magic Academy, Almark has joined the battlefield. He lost in his second fight, and instead of spending time reading books, he spilled his blood on the battlefield. Along with several small battles that occur daily, Almark has participated in 5 major battles until the summer. During this time, Almark has become a fully experienced warrior, but Reyes is still determined to prepare him for the academy. On the day when they didn't have to participate in battles, Reyes would teach his son everything he knew, including reading, writing, numerical calculation, and also his own morals. Almark was quick to learn everything, just like he had mastered sword techniques quickly. Apart from studying with his father, Almark continues to work on his sword skills, which usually bothers Reyes, but he doesn't show his dislike. Just like that, the summer when Almark turned 9 years old passed, and it was a kind of peaceful era for them. One day, Almark was stabbed in the chest by Engel, the ace of the heavily equipped Garrett Heavy Armored Corps, known as Land's Bride. Almark barely survived the attack, but he couldn't get up from the bed for almost a month. Reyes is greatly affected by the attack on his son and announces that Almark will leave this place tomorrow. Almark tries to argue that he wants to participate in the battlefield, but Reyes shouts at him that if he stays here, he will only create more problems. Instead of backing down, Almark shouts that he will become stronger, but Reyes remains unmoved, saying there is no time for that. He warns that the battles will only grow bloodier as they head toward the kingdom of Bastia, and in his current state, Almark won't survive. He softens his voice a little as he says that Almark can become great one day, but being a mercenary is a useless thing. Reyes tells his son that there are a lot of stories about the foot soldiers who were promoted to become knights, but most of these stories are just lies. On the battlefield, everyone is used, and once they can no longer participate in fights, they are just abandoned. By only using the sword, he can avoid such a situation, so he should think hard about what he should do without taking any suggestions from his father. He shouldn't just try to conquer everything with studies, but also become great through his actions and try to affect people's hearts. Almark reluctantly agrees with his father, and the next day he prepares to leave the camp. His friends Mary and Garba are the first ones to say goodbye, as they advise him to always remember them and wish him good luck on the journey. He then meets with Gels, who tells him to be confident since he is a member of the Black Wolf Cavalry, and another soldier warns him not to take anything from strangers. Along with leader Gels, the calm Morgard, the very skilled Gaidar, and Garba's father, Jizek, bid goodbye to Almark and pray for his safe journey. After meeting with the soldier, Almark goes to say goodbye to Durak, who tells him not to worry, saying that since he is Reyes' son, he will do great in every field. After gathering a few pictures, he sets off with his father, who is surprised by his small luggage. Almark assures him it's all he needs. Reyes, though confident in his son's abilities, warns that dangers still lurk and gives him a memento from Shetina. Shocked to learn it's from his mother, Almark listens as Reyes says it will keep him safe. He thanks his father, tells him to take care of himself, and walks away, marking their final farewell. On his journey to the Nork Magic Academy, 9-year-old Almark must cross the dangerous northern lands, travel through the Midlands, and head south. Traveling alone in the north is tough, and as autumn turns to winter, the hardships only grow. Hunger, harsh cold weather, monsters, and even humans with bad intentions have become a hassle of Almark's journey. He faced several near-death experiences and only survives such situations because of his sword skills and sheer luck. Sometimes he joined other traveling knights, and sometimes he traveled with other warriors and magicians. During this time, he realized how 80% of the people he trusted had betrayed him. With a broken heart, he learned to differentiate between the people he could trust and those he couldn't. When he crossed the Minoba Strait, which separates the northern continent from the central plains, the season changed to spring, and Almark successfully survived the harsh winter. There was no war in the central plains, making it a peaceful and prosperous land, which was a fresh change for Almark, who had spent all his life in war. He is content to see a peaceful life for the first time and goes to buy some food for himself with the money he has. The lady at the shop asks him where he came from, and after finding out that he is from the north, she happily gives him some extra food. With a bag overflowing with eatables, Almar goes to a nearby inn and starts eating his food while thinking about how generous people are here. For the first time during his journey, he starts to enjoy himself, which makes him wonder if every place without war is like this. When Almark turns 10, autumn returns, and when he reaches the Continental Trade Department, he has used all this money, so he continues traveling, looking worn out. In the next winter, he feels how the weather conditions are the same as in the north. Most of the time, he sleeps outdoors while looking at the night sky, and learns how to talk to himself. The season changes and spring returns. Even though he just has to cross the sea to reach Nork Island, he decides to work at the port for a month to earn his fare, successfully finishing the working month. Almark crosses the sea and finally reaches Nork Island. Wandering through the streets of the island, he asks a young girl who is passing by about the location of Nork Magic Academy. She tells him to go down the street to find the academy and shares how the academy grounds are spread over more than a third of the island. He is surprised to hear this, but he follows the path she told him and comes upon a lavish building. He moves around the place quickly trying to find the entrance, and eventually realizes that the huge gate he's standing in front of is the entrance. Almark doesn't waste more time and starts banging on the door, asking if someone is there. Soon a guard peeks outside at the noise, and Almark quickly introduces himself, saying that he came here from the north and has to meet the headmaster. The man doesn't believe him, as many people come here like this, and he hasn't received any information about him in advance. Almark is determined to fulfill his mission, and says that the headmaster, Yorg, has invited him to join the academy. Hearing the name of the headmaster from his mouth, the man finally gives in and agrees to let him meet Yorg. They walk inside the academy building, and the guard tells him how the building in front of them is the main campus where elementary students stay for 3 years. Almark is amazed to see the place, as this is the first time he has seen something like this. The guard seems happy with his comments and says it would be great for Almark to study here. He then continues that the main building is used both for studying and as a dorm for the students, and the principal's office is also here. Soon they reach their destination, and the guard asks to take Almark's sword, saying that he needs to keep it with him. Without arguing, Almark gives up his sword, and when the guard accidentally touches his hand to take the sword, he shouts due to the sudden shock he feels. The noise grabs the headmaster's attention, and at his inquiry, the guard tells him that a kid wanted to meet him at any cost. The headmaster permits them to enter the room, and seeing the old man sitting behind the desk, Almark instantly recognizes him as Yorg. As the guard introduces him, Almark is busy thinking about how a traveling magician once asked him what his imagination of the spirit of wisdom was. When Yorg doesn't react, the guard quickly apologizes, saying how the kid knew the headmaster's name, so he let him in. Before he can complete his sentence, Almark interrupts him and tells Yorg that he is the son of Vice Captain Rise from the Black Wolf Cavalry. Yorg stands up from his seat in shock, still doubtful about Almark's identity, and he again mentions that his father once rescued Yorg. After hearing the detailed explanation, Yorg sends the guard away and asks Almark to move closer so he can clearly see his face. Following the instructions, Almark moves closer to him, and after closely observing him, Yorg comments that if Reyes is really his father, then he must be Almark. After the confirmation, he bombards Almark with questions, asking why he is 2 years late, why he is dressed like that, and why he came here without his father. Before he can ask another question, Almark interrupts him with a slight laugh and says there are too many questions for him to answer at once. Realizing his mistake, Yorg apologizes and then asks him about the Black Wolf Cavalry and if they are still in the war. Almark replies that the war is still ongoing and is just getting worse, according to his father. Yorg seems sad to hear that and says they will need to use all their strength in the next battle against the Abyss King. Almark is confused at the mention of the Abyss King, but Yorg changes the topic and instead says that Almark has grown up a lot. He then asks permission for one more question, and once Almark tells him to go ahead, Yorg asks if he heard the name Jilfin Magic Defense during the battles in the north. Almark replies that he has heard of the crew, which is considered unique among the several defense corps in the north. Yorg explains that after Gruda, the Sorcerer of Ashes, rose to fame, many southern magicians traveled north to test their magic. Some were former academy students, but most failed to survive the brutal battles and harsh winters. However, a few, like Jilfin, succeeded, mainly northern magicians who had learned magic just to fight in the war. This is the reason the academy doesn't accept more students from the north. They don't want their magic to be misused. Almark doesn't understand at first, so Yorg explains that it's like an entrance exam since the academy hasn't accepted students from the north in years. He then asks what Almark plans to do after graduation and if he wants to follow Gilfin's path. Almark honestly replies that he intends to return to the north, as he saw many prosperous places on his journey, thriving in peace. This made him curious about why only the North is going through this battle, and he wants to make the North peaceful. To achieve a good life for people and make his dream come true, he will return to the North. Yorg smiles at his answer, and instead of asking any more questions, he simply welcomes Almark to the Nork Magic Academy. Almark leaves Yorg's room after the approval to join the academy and meets the guard from earlier again, who apologizes for his earlier behavior. Suddenly, the guard burst out into laughter, as it was the first time he saw Yorg acting like that. Once he stops laughing, he starts to praise Almark, but suddenly realizes something. He officially introduces himself as Jeed. He adds that he will take Almark to the school building tomorrow morning, as per the headmaster's order. They shake hands with each other as Almark introduces himself too, and G finally returns his sword, saying how it is very heavy. Without wasting much time, G takes him to the school and helps him finish the process of enrollment. He then shows Almark the student dorms and says that he needs to do something before he can go there. Almark seems confused about what he has to do, and seeing his reaction makes Jeed sad about how, because of his long journey, he forgot the basic things. He then points out how Almark smells very bad and takes him to the nearby well, so he can get himself clean. After Almark is washed up, Jeed tells him to wear the uniform when he reaches the dorm, or else he will not be allowed to sit in the class. Instead of replying to him, Almark suddenly apologizes, saying how he heard how people of the North are very cruel, but it is not true because there are only a few who like violence. G just changes the topic as he says that it is a long way to the dorms and gives his cape to Almark to cover up his dirty clothes. He says how the cape suits Almark and tells him to wear it until they reach the dorm. A large smile grazes Almark's lips at his gift, and G just stares at him in amazement for a moment and then starts walking again. As they head to the dorm, G notes that Almark, despite being a soldier, carries a noble aura. The walk to the dorm is very long, so G tells Almark to rest for a while if he wants, but then suddenly realizes how the kid has walked here from the north. Soon they reach the dormitory building, and the huge, luxurious building is astonishing to Almark. Seeing his expression, G tells him how the building follows the design of the vacation home of the Galai Kingdom's king. The building has 4 floors, and about 100 students are living there. Almark is surprised to hear the information since the buildings look very empty, but he keeps his thoughts to himself and instead asks if he will stay here too. G replies that all the new students reside here, but currently it is so peaceful because everyone went to the main building to attend classes. Walking inside the building, G says that they will meet the superintendent first and assures Almark that she is a nice person, even though she is a bit loud. Soon they reach the room, and G comments that she must have already known about their arrival. While knocking on the door, he calls for someone named Maya, and a voice answers that the door is always open, so there is no need for knocking. After getting permission, both of them enter the room, and Almark is startled to see the empty chair. It amazes him how even the caretaker can use invisibility magic, and he is shocked when a voice suddenly asks what he is staring at. Looking down, he finds a very short woman standing in front of him and glaring at him. Jeed is the one to break the awkward silence as he greets the woman named Maya and introduces Almark, who bows to her. Without wasting time on any pleasantries, Maya starts her lecture as she tells Almark how he will live here until his education is completed, so he shouldn't cry if he misses his family. He has to eat his meal twice a day in the cafeteria, eat his lunch in the school cafeteria, and if he has any issues with the food, he can tell the head chef. Maya adds that he looks like a privileged boy wearing his cape, but he can't complain about his room or anything else. She finishes her speech by telling him that her room number is 31 and is unbothered when Jeed corrects her by saying that the room is 341. Jeed then gives the room keys to Almark, and after finding that Almark doesn't want to ask any questions, he leads them out of the room. When they are back in the corridor, Almark seems to be in deep thought about something, and when Jeed asks him about it, Almark says how he already said that he didn't come from a rich background. Jeed just smiles at his answer, saying how he told him that the cape looks good on him and says that they will go to his room now. Almark is still thinking about how Maya will react to seeing his real clothes. They reach his room, and he slowly takes in the new room while Jeed tells him how the other students share a room, but he will stay alone in this room for the first year. Jeed then asks him if he has any other stuff except the sword, saying how he should have something even if he is from a poor family. Almark just replies that he is satisfied with this and then returns the cape to Jeed, thanking him for the help. Taking the cape from him, Jeed says that he will get his uniform later, but for now he should take off his clothes so the bed stays clean. Almark quickly follows his instruction as he takes off his shirt, and seeing his strong muscles and a nasty scar, Jeed realizes how cruel his journey was. As Almar calls his name, he quickly apologizes for getting lost in thought and says that he will bring food so he can rest for a bit. Suddenly, noises start coming from outside, and Jeed explains that the students have returned from the main building since it is almost dinner time. He then leaves, saying that he will eat with everyone in the cafeteria, while Almar goes to the window to look at the other students. He is hopeful that he will find some friends here, but still finds it hard to believe that he can be like the carefree children of the South. He suddenly realizes how he has truly escaped from the cruel world, and his painful journey ends here. From now on, he will start a new journey filled with different experiences at the Yorg Magic Academy. A dream about another harsh battle in the north wakes him the next day, and he falls off the bed in panic. Staring at the ceiling, he slowly realizes he is in the Yorg Magic Academy. The nightmare was a memory of the battlefield, and the enemy he saw in the dream was the Iron Knife from the Zale's Interceptor mercenaries. They had been surrounded until his father's unit came to their rescue. At the time, the other party used magic to wrap the grass around their feet. Ryze really disliked the use of magic on the battlefield, so after this accident, he told everyone to quickly attack the person who had a staff in the battle. Almark retrieves the pendant from the sheath of his sword, which he had put there to keep it safe because it is what keeps him alive. He holds his only two belongings in his hand while thinking about how the pendant from his mother and the sword from his father have protected his life so far. Closing his eyes, he slowly puts his head on his hand, telling his parents that he has safely reached his destination. Jeed chooses this moment to barge into his room and cheerfully greets him, but stops when he notices that Almark is lost in thought. Putting his things away, Almark wishes him good morning, and Jeed gives him breakfast, saying that this is the last meal he'll have alone in his room. Almark doesn't waste any time as he goes to eat the food, and then asks Jeed where he can get water to wash his face and fix his hair. Jeed replies that there is a washroom available, but then he points at the small wells outside the window, saying they are a better option. Thanking him for the help, Almark gets ready to leave the room, but Jeed tells him to wait, as he has brought the uniform for him. As Almark leaves his room, he passes the noisy cafeteria, imagining himself among the students but unsure if he would be welcomed. Outside, he spots a girl sitting by the well. Hearing his footsteps, she turns and asks him to introduce himself. When he says he joined yesterday, she guesses he must be the transfer student everyone has been talking about, as it's rare for the academy to have one. She continues that everyone was curious to see what kind of great person he is, but he just looks very ordinary. Almark apologizes for the disappointment and then asks her who she is. As the girl replies that her name is Julia, Almark asks why she is outside when everyone else is at the cafeteria. Julia tells him that they can slack off in the morning, and even though Maya will get angry if she knows, she only pays a visit early in the morning. Almark's attention is slightly diverted toward his hair when Julia suddenly stands up and leaves, saying that he can ask someone else if he wants to know more things. When Almark returns to his room, Jeed is sitting on the bed and comments on how the sword is great even though he is not very knowledgeable in that department. He asks if the sword has some special qualities, to which Almark replies that he doesn't know because he got the sword from his father. During his journey, the sword was used very harshly, and now that he looks at it, it does look very hefty. Seeing his slightly somber expression, Jeed asks if something bad happened as he looks exhausted. Almark replies that he met a girl named Julia, and Jeed seems to know her as he quickly says it must have been a difficult meeting. Jeed bursts into laughter when Almark says that she didn't like him much and says it is unfortunate that the first person he met was Julia. He continues that it would have been better if his first interaction had been with someone like Wendy, but before he can explain who that person is, the bell starts ringing. Jeed rushes him to wear the uniform quickly as they have to go to the school building, with Jeed shouting to hurry in the background. Almark quickly changes his clothes and they both leave his room. The past memories suddenly hit Almark as he recalls how the magicians in the north were very evil, and he was baffled when his father said that he would become a magician too. He did his best to learn the sword, hoping that his father would not ask him to learn magic because he only wanted to be a mercenary. But Ryze was determined about his decision. A day before he left the camp, Ryze revealed the whole truth, and Almark stopped chasing his dream to become a mercenary. Even though he always dreamed of fighting battles, the thing he wanted most was to make his father proud. Despite his fear of magic, he didn't want to show it to his father, who was a brave mercenary, and he wanted to prove that he was brave too. As he traveled to the north, his opinion about magic changed because there was nothing that he saw back in the north. In the South, magic is a big part of people's lives, and he now wishes to bring magic to the North to help his people. When he leaves the residential building, Jeed is already waiting for him, and they both start walking together as Almark thinks about how he will become a magician. He shares with Jeed how he is excited because this is the first time he has joined something like school. Jeed says Almark will have a great experience, but Almark, noticing his serious expression, asks if something is wrong. Embarrassed, Jeed admits he worries people won't be welcoming if they learn about Almark's background. He explains that Southerners unfamiliar with war only fight monsters and often look down on mercenaries. Realizing his words may sound harsh, he quickly apologizes, adding that not everyone is like that, but it's a possibility. Almark argues that there were some mercenary groups from the South, to which Jeed replies that he is right, but people don't know the full truth. Many people think that the people of the North are just fighting for no reason. Almark recalls how he experienced similar things during his journey because people believe that they have nothing to do with war, so they look down upon those who are fighting. He also doesn't like the war, but it still bothers him that people will think badly about their lifestyle. He again argues that his father is still a brave mercenary, and suddenly he remembers the difficult task Yorg gave him. As an 11-year-old, it is very hard for him to hide the information about his father, but if others knew about this, Almark would have to face many issues. This is not the only problem. The Academy claims to be indifferent to students' backgrounds, but the ongoing Northern War and the fate of its graduates make it nearly impossible for Almark to reveal his past. His official documents hide the truth, which is acceptable since even Northern aristocrats are barred from admission. Understanding Almark's emotions, Jeed warns him that revealing the truth would make it very difficult for him to survive at the Academy. Almark recalls his father's advice to think for himself, and with this in mind, he resolves to protect his father's honor. Despite the harsh journey, Almark has learned not to let his emotions control him. He silently apologizes to his father and tells Jeed that he will keep his father's background a secret. Jeed again apologizes and then leads him toward the school building, asking if Miss Fiore is his homeroom teacher. Jeed comments how he is lucky. Just as they meet Miss Fiore, she politely greets them, telling Almark that she will teach the class he is joining. Once Almark is introduced to his new teacher, Jeed tells Miss Fiore that he will hand Almark over to her now. Miss Fiore assures him that everything will be fine, and he then turns to Almark, saying that he can meet him at the gate if he needs anything. They say goodbye to each other, and Almark thanks him, then Jeed leaves. Miss Fiore leads him further inside the building, saying that they have to go to the 3rd floor, and on the way, she will guide him about the class he is going to attend. She starts by explaining that the elementary division is a 3-year program, with one class of 15 students in each grade. In the elementary section, Almark will learn general education and some basic things about magic. By the 3rd year, everyone will choose a certain branch of magic, but there is no rush to do that. She mentions how she heard that he has some special talent for magic, and she is sure he will learn to use the magic quickly. They just need to work on it together. As they walk up the stairs, Fiore mentions that with 15 students, pairing was uneven, but now that there are 16, Almark will quickly find a friend. They reach the classroom, and Fiore opens the door, nudging him to step inside. Almark looks around in surprise as she introduces him as a transfer student, encouraging the class to befriend him. While standing in front of the class, he feels that someone is staring at him intensely. During his journey toward the South, he joined the traveling performers, and there were many occasions where he had to use his sword before people. Carefully looking around the class, he notices Julia sitting there and is curious about where he will be seated. His eyes meet with another young girl who smiles innocently at him, which makes him wonder if she is a noble. He comes out of his thoughts when Fiore asks him to introduce himself. Introducing himself to everyone, he says that he belongs to the Kingdom of Arnady and is not very familiar with the Academy or magic. He slightly bows in front of the class while thinking about how the Kingdom of Arnady is a place where Black Wolf cavalry was stationed at the time of his birth. Fiore tells the class that he is late to join the Academy because of some personal reasons, so they should take care of him. She is looking around to find a suitable seat for him when the girl from the back raises her hand, saying that his seat is next to her. Almark goes to sit beside the girl named Wendy, and they greet each other while Fiore starts the lecture. When the teacher tells them to open the books, Wendy instantly shares her book with him since he doesn't have one yet. Fiore begins her lecture on the 4 creators of the world and the 8 beings who inhabited it, including the lesser beings and their followers. After the lecture, as Almark is contemplating asking for help, the students approach him, Wendy, speaking for the group, asks about Arnetti, if he's a commoner due to his lackable last name, his father's occupation, and why he joined the academy late. Almar, a bit startled by the questions, calmly replies that Arnetti is in the north. His father is a traveling blacksmith, and he joined late because he was traveling with his father. One of the students asks where in the north this kingdom is, saying the names of the different places to gauge the exact location of Almark's origin. He is surprised at their enthusiasm since he thought they would be more reserved. Julia is the one to speak next as she asks what kind of things his father makes. They seem excited to know that they make swords, as the young boy asks that there must be a high demand for the swords. The questions keep coming as another girl asks if someone was with him when he came to the academy. The group is shocked to learn that Almark traveled here alone, and their loud chatter starts to annoy him. To change the subject, he asks them to introduce themselves. Morgan is the first to speak, excitedly sharing that he's from a village in the Galai kingdom, and his father is a woodcutter. Next, Nelson, the son of a knight's attendant from the Mike's kingdom, expresses his excitement to meet Almark. A girl named Narish introduces herself as coming from a rural village in the Lang kingdom, a small southern nation. She gestures to the girl clinging to her arm, Lily, her roommate, whose parents are musicians at the Royal Academy of Arts in the Forest Kingdom. Morgan then adds with excitement that Wendy hails from the prestigious Bahaz family, the most influential nobles in the Galai kingdom. Wendy is a little embarrassed listening to her family, but they ignore her as Morgan goes to introduce the student who hasn't come here. Before he can speak, some older guys approach them and harshly tell them to leave. Almark is about to say something in reply, but Morgan quickly covers his mouth, telling him to stay quiet. With a polite smile, Wendy addresses the boy named Torque and says that they are just getting to know Almark. Torque replies that they can talk in the class, but they shouldn't bother other nobles. As Wendy stutters to say something, he adds that they will also be late for their class. Almark is curious if they have to go to another class, so Wendy tells him the next session is for practical magic. Torque interrupts their conversation, as he says that even though Almark joined the academy late, he should know a few spells because there is no place for a beginner here. When Almark says that he doesn't know any spells, Torque arrogantly replies that commoners are like that, just a burden to the novels, and he is sure that Almark will be terminated in the first 3 years. Torque and his friends walk away after that, while Morgan tells Almark how Torque is the son of a noble from the Galai kingdom. He continues that there is no discrimination between nobles and commoners in the academy, and Torque is just someone who thinks he is special. Since he is very skilled in both magic and martial arts, they can't take any step against him. Seeing Almark's surprised reaction, Morgan tells him that martial arts is also the part of curriculum and Torque is the second best in that class. Almark asks who is the topper in that class, to which Morgan tells him it is class president Wallace, the strongest student here, but they don't have time to discuss him. Soon they all reach the practical magic class, and once everyone is gathered there, the teacher tells them to light the lamp using their own magic power and without using the wand. All the students close their eyes to focus on the task, and soon the small lamps start to illuminate their hands, while Almar just stares at them in wonder. In the north, most of the magicians practiced on their own, but here in the south, the magic looks more purified, and the techniques are also very polished. He realizes that people who have exceptional talent like these children are allowed to join the academy. Just then the teacher notices him standing there and says that he knows what happened to him, so he will give him some private lessons after school. Almark thanks him while the teacher turns toward the other students and asks them to stop using magic. They all look toward him as the teacher points out that their focus is very weak today, and it must be because they want to impress the new students, but it is not possible with such a bad display. Moving on, he tells everyone to hold their wands as they will learn the magic through it now. With Wendy's assistance, Almark finds a box filled with practice wands and asks her what will they do now. Wendy gives a wand to him while explaining that they might do wine magic or stone carving today. It just depends on what Professor Ilmus wants. Just then the teacher Ilmus tells them to bring some stones as they will practice stone carving today. Almark stares at the box of magical stones while recalling how he saw an old street magician tearing the stones into two with his magical sword, and at the time, he didn't believe that it was magic. He notices how quickly students are performing this new magic, even though some of them, like Morgan, are struggling to get hold of it. Almark notices students carving intricate patterns on stones, impressed by the level of magic involved. As he watches, Ilmus approaches one of the students and advises them to focus. To Almark's surprise, the student is Wallace, the infamous top student, who suddenly glares at him from the front bench. Before Almark can dwell on it, Torque approaches and asks why he isn't practicing magic. Almark admits he doesn't know even basic spells, and to his surprise, Torque offers to teach him a trick. He instructs Almark to close his eyes and feel the magic within him. When Almark appears confused, Torque grows irritated, bluntly stating that if he has no magic, he shouldn't be at the academy. Torque explains that magic should be felt and visualized gathering at the tip of the wand, demonstrating he exhales deeply and channels magic into a stone, carving a pattern with a swift stroke. Handing the wand to Almark, he urges him to try. Usually uninterested in others' attempts, Almark is eager to learn and trusts Torque despite his bluntness. However, when he follows the instructions, nothing happens. Torque laughs, mocking him for struggling with such a simple spell. He declares that Almark has no magic and won't last a year at the academy. His tone grows hostile as he accuses Almark of blocking others' paths. Instead of arguing, Almark asks why Torque sees him as an enemy. Was it because he was a commoner? Without hesitation, Torque confirms this, adding that Almark's unclear background is also an issue. Almark states that they aren't so different, but this only enrages Torque, nearly shouting. He declares that a commoner can't be compared to a nobleman of the sci-fi family. He continues, criticizing Almark's late entry to the academy, saying everyone has personal struggles but still joins at the age of 9. He insinuates that Almark was too attached to his parents. Almark mumbles that his life has been difficult, to which Torque coldly replies that naive thinking has no place here. He'll just be left behind. Frustrated, Torque walks away, muttering that he wasted his time. Almark barely holds back his emotions, but reassures himself that such attitudes are common. Compared to what he's seen on the battlefield, Torque is still mild. He remains grateful for the lesson. As he watches Nourish carve a stone with a smile, he admires the other students' magical skills. Wendy overhears his thoughts and assures him that he will learn too. Almas agrees to help, and Wendy offers assistance as well. Just then, Morgan rushes over, eagerly volunteering to help in any way. Almark sincerely thanks them, and soon they sit in the cafeteria for lunch. During the meal, a student comments on Almark's fast eating. Morgan asks if he's starving, and Nelson, worried he might not have enough food, insists he take extra bread. He doesn't let Almark refuse, practically forcing him to eat. As he listens to their casual conversation, Almark realizes he needs to adjust his habits to fit in. At the end of the day, Almark meets Ilmas in the magic hall. Ilmas suggests moving to a quieter space, and Almark follows him silently. Once in an empty classroom, Ilmas asks if he believes a wand or cape is necessary for magic. After a moment's thought, Almark responds that most magicians carry wands and wear capes, so he assumes they are essential. Ilmas then asks if he knows any magicians and where he met them. Almark replies that he encountered a few during his journey to the academy. Ilmas tells him to forget what he knows. What he has seen is only the surface of magic. True magicians are those with invisible power. The essence of magic lies in what is unseen. If Almark wishes to remain at the academy, this is the most crucial lesson to learn. Ilmas acknowledges Almark's intelligence but explains that magic cannot be fully understood through words, it must be experienced. He instructs Almark to close his eyes and meditate, as sensing one's inner magic is the foundation of all spells. Though meditation is typically taught in elementary school, Ilmas believes Almark can still catch up despite being a third year. After his private lesson, Almark walks back alone in the dark when his friends approach him. Wendy, worried he might get lost, waited for him. The girls left earlier because Lily was afraid of the dark, leaving the boys behind to escort him. Almark thanks them, and Nelson casually mentions that they often practice in the forest after class, so it was no trouble. As they walk to the dorms, Almark realizes he still struggles to recognize everyone by face. Once in his room, he reflects on magic. It once felt foreign, but now it is like a vast reservoir within him. Though uncertain if this is the correct sensation, Ilmas assured him that understanding will come with time. During his journey south, Almark learned to converse with himself, and now magic feels much the same. From the next day, his schedule becomes packed as he tries to grasp everything in class. Though Wendy helps him a lot, he doesn't want to rely on her too much. Instead, he spends most of his time in the library and meditates after class. Ilmas guides him in some sessions, and his friends are willing to assist, but he prefers meditating alone. It feels more effective. While he doesn't need much help now, he knows he will seek his friends' support when necessary. At the academy, students receive 1 day off every 10 days. On the day before his first break, something unusual happens. During the practical magic class, all students practice light magic. Though Almark knows nothing, he follows Ilma's instructions, who explains that magic is based on imagination. Despite his efforts, Almark struggles to gather magical power and fails to produce light in his hand. Ilmis then moves on to wind magic, instructing students to start with a light breeze before strengthening it enough to shake a small tree. Norish quickly grasps the technique, but Torque struggles, making Almark realize that everyone has different talents. He observes that Julia and Wendy excel at all magic, while Morgan also struggles with wind magic. Curious about Wallace, the top student, Almark looks around and finds him doing something entirely different. He has tried speaking to Wallace several times, but something always interferes, making him wonder if Wallace is avoiding him. However, he notices the deep respect other students have for Wallace. Morgan tells him that Wallace comes from a noble family, but with his busy schedule, Almark hasn't gathered much more information. Turning his attention back to class, Almark realizes he can now sense his magical power better. He decides to try light magic again, focusing on gathering energy in his hand. After deep concentration, he finally manages to produce a glowing light. However, his excitement is short-lived as the illumination suddenly grows out of control, slipping beyond his grasp. When Almark wakes up in the infirmary, he quickly sits up and checks his hand. There are no burns. Confused about how long he was unconscious, he feels disappointed for fainting and still can't understand how the flames grew so big or why his magic vanished so suddenly. As he tries to get up, he's startled by Teacher Ilmis, who tells him to rest, explaining that he fully released his magical power and needs time to recover. Almark stays still and asks what happened. Ilmis confirms he was attempting light magic, but instead accidentally unleashed dragon flames, a deadly magic capable of turning everything to ash. Shocked, Almark immediately worries about his friends, but Ilmis reassures him that everyone is safe. The flames had disappeared quickly before they could cause harm. Picking up a stool, Ilmis sits before him, explaining that Almark's magic power is still very raw. He then asks if the incident was unexpected to him, to which Almark replies that he thought he imagined the light magic. Staring at his hands, he says he only meant to summon a small flame. Unleashing dragon fire was completely unexpected. He can't understand how it happened. Ilmis explains that while middle-grade students can activate dragon flame, it's extremely difficult to control. That's why only senior students are allowed to use it, especially since it demands immense energy, which can be dangerous for someone with limited magic power. Each revelation stuns Almark, who still struggles with the basics, yet somehow triggered something so dangerous. Ilmis gently reminds him that he once said Almark is a genius, quick to learn and apply things, but warns that such instinctive practice isn't always safe in magic. Almark quietly agrees, recalling similar words just before he fainted. Deep down, he admits he interpreted magic in his own way and let that confidence turn into arrogance. He lies back down as Ilmis tells him that the healing mage, Syria, will give him medicine soon, and he should rest for a while before going back to the dorm. Ilmis advises him not to train or meditate for the next 2 days and only focus on healing his magic power. Almark listens to the instructions silently and then apologizes for causing the trouble. After a momentary silence, Ilmis says that he had told him that he needed to catch up with others quickly, but that doesn't mean that he needed to rush. Pointing at his chest, Ilmis states that he has the magic power inside him, so he should be able to control it. He just needs to process it slowly. Ilmis leaves the infirmary after that, and a while later, Syria comes with Almark's medicine. While drinking the medicine, Almark is surprised at how he can feel the magic power slowly being restored. Syria tells him that he can return to his dorm once he can easily walk again, and advises him to rest for the next 2 days in his dorm. She leaves soon after that, while Almark just lies on the bed, thinking about whether he should go back now. He can't stay there for longer and gets ready to leave while thinking about apologizing to his class during dinner. He is a little disappointed when he recalls how tomorrow is their day off, and he was planning to explore the town with Wendy, but now it can't happen. As soon as he leaves the infirmary, he is attacked by his friends, who are all very worried for him. Wendy instantly clings to him, asking if he is alright and telling him how she is very worried as Syria is about to send them away. Quickly examining his hand, Wendy is relieved to see that he has no injuries. Without wasting any time, Almark apologizes to everyone for putting them in danger like that, but to his surprise, his friends just chuckle, saying that it is normal, and at the start, they also couldn't control the magic well. Nelson shares how Morgan got burned in the oven and ever created pillars of fire. Lily shyly says that she almost burned Torque's hair, and everyone bursts out laughing at her confession, remembering the funny incident from the past. Nourish speaks next, saying how this is the first time someone has produced such big flames, and Morgan also seems excited that someone from their grade has activated such magic. Almark is relieved to see his friends act normally and shares how he was worried that they would be mad at him. They quickly assure him that it's not a big deal since everyone makes mistakes and they have caused a lot of trouble in class. Grabbing both hands, Wendy says how everything was much worse when they were in their freshman year, so he shouldn't hesitate to practice more. She adds that she knows meditation is the only special training, and he can approach her whenever he needs help. A big smile finally grazes Almark's lips as he thanks everyone and then apologizes, as he will not be able to join them tomorrow. Morgan and Wendy are disappointed at the news, as they are planning to show him different things in town, including the candy store. Unlike others, Nelson cheerfully tells Almark to rest well, saying that he will go with Morgan to bring the textbooks for him. He thanks his friends for the help as Nelson and Morgan leave to go to town, as they still have a lot of things to do. Almark closes the infirmary door, pondering about how lucky he is to have met such good friends and how he wants to stay sincere with everyone. On his walk back toward the dorm, he bumps into Julia, who instantly starts to walk away after spotting him. Almark quickly apologizes for disturbing her, but Julia seems angry as she calls him a monkey for using the powers that he couldn't control. Julia adds how today's class was a mess because of him and then walks away, telling him not to cause trouble like this again. The next morning, he wakes up in his dorm room, staring out the window and thinking about how nice the weather is. Just then, someone starts knocking on the door, and he goes to open the door, only to be shocked to see Wendy there, holding a bunch of books in her hand. She explains that since he can't leave his dorm for the day, she brought all the classwork to him. Surprised, he asks her if she really wants to waste her day off like this, but Wendy assures him that it is okay since she can also study this way. Finally giving in, he accepts the offer, and Wendy suggests that they should go to the library. Soon they are both sitting in the library while Almark's thoughts are wandering around how Wendy is a very genius student because she solves every question easily. It also makes him wonder if she is very intelligent or if the questions are just easy. After studying in the library, they go to lunch together, and once they finish eating, Almark asks Wendy why she is so caring towards him. Is it because she is just being nice to him? Wendy hesitantly replies that she thought he didn't understand anything because he was new to the academy. Almark agrees with her, but he still feels very embarrassed by her kindness. She assures him that she is doing it by her own will, and when Almark stays silent in return, she says that because of their mistake, Torque has started to target him. Almark instantly recalls the incident as Wendy tells him that they all decided to protect him from the bullies. Her words are very shocking to Almark, as he can't believe that a fragile girl will protect him when he is perfectly capable of protecting himself like he did when he crossed the Minoba Strait. He figures that these children look at him as someone who needs to be protected, so he just thanks her again, saying that he may not look like it, but he can still protect himself without anyone's help. Wendy quickly clarified that she wasn't calling him unreliable, to which Almark replied that he is grateful to all of his friends for helping him, including yesterday's incident. He then continues that this is not important right now and asks why Torque is always trying to bully him. Instead of replying to him, Wendy asks what his opinion is about their class. He is confused by her question, so Wendy explains how in their class, there are a bunch of students who don't have a last name. According to her, in their class, only 4 kids have surnames, which means they are nobles, while the remaining 12, including Almark, are commoners. Meanwhile, in grades 1 and 3, more students have surnames, unlike their own class, so Torque is unhappy to be in a class with commoners. Confused, Almark says how he thought there was no discrimination in this academy, to which Wendy replies that he is right and even teachers don't support such behavior. She adds that some people are still against the idea of equality, and she might do the same. The arrogant students have even protested in front of the headmaster, and Almark admits that they are also the high achievers in the class, but that doesn't make them superior to other students. Wendy mentions that Torque has always hated the commoners, and he often shows it through his actions and words. Because of his attitude, the commoner students feel very intimidated, which makes them hate the discrimination more. She magically lights up a lamp on her hand while saying how it is weird that there was no such discrimination before the magic was discovered. Almark is more captivated by her use of magic and realizes that everyone has equal power over magic. Wendy continues how she always wanted to switch classes and has been thinking about it for a long time, but hasn't managed to go through with it. She tells him how when he first joined the class, she thought he was very amazing. On his first day, even though everything was new to him and he didn't know how to use magic, he was still very confident. Almark replies that he remembers everything clearly and is very happy to hear the compliment. Wendy further continues that when their eyes met for the first time, she thought that he might be the one who would change the situation. She shyly adds that this is why she wanted to help him fit into the class. She quickly clarifies that it looks like she is just bad-mouthing Torque, but he still has some good qualities in him. Her behavior is very predictable to Almark, but he doesn't want to change his class because he is already finding it hard to keep up with the lessons. As he looks at Wendy, he realizes how she has helped him in so many ways today, and he is indebted to her for the kindness. This reminds him of his father's words about how mercenaries need to repay kindness, as they value gratitude, and betrayal is similar to death for them. Reyes had told him that it is important to start strong in the battle. He can't let anyone look down on him and has to show them that he is strong. He is determined to fulfill his father's words and asks Wendy if there is a martial arts class tomorrow. Confirming the class, Wendy asks if this is his first time attending this class. With a faint smile, Almark tells her not to use formalities with his name. It reminds him too much of the past. Then, he adds that he'll show his gratitude tomorrow. The next day, Almark and Torque stand face to face on the training ground, swords in hand. Wendy tries to stop Almark, but he ignores her. Instead, he makes a bet with Torque. If he loses, he'll leave the academy. But if he wins, Torque must follow his lead. Torque calls it a pointless bet, but when Almark asks if he's scared, he quickly agrees, shouting that today will be the last time he has to see Almark's face. Almark is studying when Morgan approaches him and asks if they should go now. Soon they reach the martial arts ground, and Wendy asks his opinion about it. Morgan instead replies that on the day of the annual martial arts tournament, King Galai and many important guests are here, which means that they will be fighting in front of everyone. Almark confirms this, and Wendy explains how winning is very important because in the elementary section, only third graders are participating, and it is their first time competing. Almark asks her if there are other tournaments like this, but doesn't get his answer, as Torque shouts at him to stay quiet until Professor Bowen arrives. He comments on how the barbarians from the north are very rude. Almark just apologizes to him and then whispers to Morgan about how Torque seems very nervous today. Morgan replies that Torque is very confident about his martial arts skills and is very strong, but he fights very roughly, which makes him scared of the guy. Their discussion is interrupted when Professor Bowen arrives, and seeing Almark in the class, he greets him. Almark politely bows in front of his professor, who continues that he is very talented, but since it is his first class, he will just observe. Bowen then tells others to start practicing, and Almark is surprised to see the thin swords they are holding. According to him, these thin swords can be used to easily slip into the gaps of a heavily armored enemy, but they are still not very useful in real combat, as they will quickly break in front of a spear or an axe. He remembers how in the north, no one used such thin swords, but he soon realizes that he is the only one when thinking about a real battle, because in the south, the war ended 100 years ago, and they are just using these for education. He notices how the students are still wearing armor, and they are fighting against each other fiercely. Just then the first match ends, and the winner invites Wallace to fight with him next. They start exchanging blows, and Almark notices how Wallace is not putting in much effort, but he is still easily winning. It looks like Wallace is completely in a different league, just like Morgan said, and everyone else seems less skilled in front of him. He turns his attention toward the girls and notices how Julia and Wendy both are very good at this, and they might have started training early since they are both nobles. After finishing the match, Wendy tells Julia that her attacks were very accurate, as always, to which Julia replies that her attacks are very strong too. Almark notices them laughing with each other, but he doesn't have time to dwell on it longer, as Torque calls him to join them, saying how they can't have any weak students in their class. Almark coldly states that they can't decide if he is weak or not, but Torque doesn't seem affected by his remarks and only says that it looks like Almark still hasn't learned his lesson. He continues to say how annoying it is that someone like him is still in the academy and asks if he has prepared to leave. Almark replies that he is not going to leave the academy, as it took him almost 2 years to get here. Sighing heavily, Torque says how he is tired of this lame story and asks if he thinks this can help his image. Almark replies that there is no reason for him to make up something like this, but Torque still doesn't believe him and instead comments on his rudeness. Almark argues that he always says things like this, and it is true that the South's magic is amazing, but not everyone from the North is cruel. Torque scoffs that people from the North kill each other without reason and calls the mercenaries nothing more than low-life gangsters. Seeing Almark's reaction, he smirks, noting it must be a sensitive topic, so they should settle it with a match. Almark suggests asking a teacher first, but Torque replies that he already did. Almark agrees and asks for armor. Torque's friend Galen lends him a set, and soon they face each other, thin swords in hand. Torque keeps provoking him, saying the academy isn't meant for killers like Almark, and that he should return to his homeland, where fighting is normal. Almark calmly replies that he was officially accepted into the academy, which only angers Torque more. He snaps that he'll never accept that decision. While talking, he suddenly attacks Almark, and he is shocked when the other easily avoids his attacks. All the students finally notice them fighting, but they are not paying attention to anyone as Torque curses Almark for avoiding the attack. Almark points out how his language is not appropriate for a noble while thinking about how much he can provoke Torque. He was already waiting for this face-off as he had a hunch that Torque would try to bully him during the martial arts class. Right now, he is just pretending to follow Torque's lead when he has already decided to fight with him. The only issue is the professor, but it looks like he is not going to stop them, which makes him wonder if he has instructions from the academy director. Torque again shouts at him that he shouldn't feel special just because he dodged one attack, but Almark is more focused on the students around them. He notices Wendy's worried face and murmurs that he is not going anywhere without repaying her. Julia is also standing there, looking bored, while Wallace is leaning against a wall. Almark is curious about Wallace, who looks like he came from a family of high-ranking nobles, but his eyes are like those of an expert mercenary. His train of thought breaks when Torque threatens to kill him, but he just chuckles in response, saying he shouldn't say things like this as it makes him look like a barbarian from the north. Furious, Torque tries to attack him again, but he just casually leans backward, saying that Torque is not very strong to be a mercenary. Almark finally decides that this much provoking is enough, just as Torque attacks him again, aiming for his different parts of the body, but Almark easily dodges every attack. All the students are amazed by his performance and even think that Torque is not performing well, but they soon realize that Almark is really good. It looks like Almark is perfectly aware of how to dodge all the attacks coming toward him. Torque's anger increases with every passing second as he calls out Almark for always running away. He is startled when Almark easily hits him, making him lose the fight, but Torque refuses to accept the defeat. Julia tells him to be honorable, but he just ignores her and continues to protest. Professor Bowen is also observing them, as Almark agrees to fight one more time on his condition. He offers a bet to Torque, saying that he will leave the academy if he loses, and if Torque loses, he will have to stop discriminating between nobles and commoners in the academy. Torque downright refuses to accept the bet, but when Almark provokes him further, asking if he is scared to lose, he gives in to him. He keeps shouting in anger about how he will win this time, and this will be the last time he sees Almark's annoying face. They start the fight again, with Torque threatening to kill, but Almark notices that his actions are not as strong as his words. From the side, Almark's friends encourage him to stay strong as they notice how Torque is not directly attacking this time. Professor Bowen seems amazed by something, as Torque is confused by how Almark doesn't seem very angry with him. Before he has the chance to understand the situation, Almark suddenly hits him in the chest and he goes flying back, crashing into the ground. Shocked, he slowly sits up as Almark approaches him and yanks him forward by his collar. He says that since he has won the fight, Torque has to promise in front of everyone that he will stop discriminating between the nobles and commoners now. Torque still looks very hostile, so Almark shouts in his face that he needs to swear on his family name that he will not discriminate against anyone. All the students just stare at them silently as Torque finally promises with him. Everyone suddenly bursts into cheers, commenting on how Torque went flying back. They bombard Almark with questions, saying how he is very strong and asking if he knows martial arts. Wendy is the only one who doesn't seem happy, and when Almark calls her, she says she shouldn't have done something so dangerous. He slowly approaches her, saying how he promised that he would repay her, and Wendy starts crying happy tears at that. Almark is not sure if this was enough to repay her kindness, but he doesn't say anything as his friends surround him, playfully inviting him to fight with them. Professor Bowen finally interjects the students, scolding Almark and Torque for fighting during the class. After confirming that they are not injured, Bowen continues that this is a good chance to discuss martial arts. He explains how these days martial arts are just a part of education, but they were very essential during the time of the war. Martial arts is not a game, and it is based on a collection of techniques that are enough to defeat the enemy. This is why it is not wrong to want to defeat your opponent during training, and it is okay to say that martial arts can't exist without clear determination. This is why Torque wasn't wrong with his plans, but inserting hatred into them was a wrong move because a fight and hatred are not the same. Bowen continues that martial arts require both parties to give their all to win the competition, but this should also be respectful toward their opponent. Studying martial arts in this era of peace is to ensure that people learn to respect their opponent, and Torque lacks this quality when battling against someone. If he doesn't respect his opponent, he will only be able to use superficial techniques, but he will not understand the true meaning of martial arts, so he should rethink his actions. Bowen then turns toward Almark, the winner of this fight, and says that he doesn't know why they are fighting against each other, but Almark is against someone who is more skilled than him. He has set up traps and provoked his opponents just to fulfill his wishes, which he thinks is very awful. It is very wrong to use such techniques to humiliate his classmate, so he should also rethink his actions. Despite everything, his motive behind the fight was good, and he also can't forgive anyone who discriminates between the students. He still chose the wrong way to achieve this goal, therefore he will be forgiven for this time only. Almark thanks his professor for his kindness, and Bowen adds that it is unforgivable how they chose his rarely held class as their battleground. They should not waste his precious class to settle their differences, and for this reason, Almark will have to clean the martial arts arena this year. Following his teacher's instructions, Almark starts to clean the arena, but his friends don't leave him alone, and everyone helps with the cleaning. As he is taking a box away, Professor Bowen approaches him and says that if everyone is helping him, it is really not punishment. Bowen then tells him to visit the principal's office after school. After the school day, Almark goes to meet the headmaster and knocks on the door, thinking about how he was last here when he first joined the academy. Yorg welcomes him to the office and asks him how he is finding the academy. Yorg is relieved when Almark says that everything is good and asks Almark to tell him everything that has been happening these days. Yorg says that the teachers have also reported everything to him, but he wants to hear directly from him. At the headmaster's instructions, Almark tells him everything, including his class, magic, his casting the dragon flame, Wendy and Torque, and everything that has happened with a martial arts class. He concisely talks about everything, expressing his thoughts in between. Yorg listened to him attentively, nodding at appropriate times and chuckling sometimes, and didn't interrupt him in any way. Once he finishes, Yorg says that it looks like he is spending a good time in the academy, and he also feels fine physically. He was surprised to learn that Almark had used the dragon flame at such a young age and managed to walk back to the dorm on the same day. Almark politely replies that his teachers helped him, and in the past 10 days, everyone, including Wendy and Morgan, has also helped him a lot. Yorg replies that he will easily learn the magic with this feeling, so he should always remember that, including the time he spent learning the magic and the time he spent with his friends. Both of these things are essential for him to become a magician, so he should not ignore them. Yorg then suddenly asks him if he has enough money, and Almark quickly says yes to it while thinking about how the academy provides him with clothes, meals, and a residence without any charges. With that, they also give students a small allowance every month, and some students also receive money from their wealthy families that they use to buy some extra necessities. Almark says to Yorg that he doesn't need any money, just now realizing how he didn't even use any of the allowances he received. Yorg says that he has to repay his father, so he shouldn't hesitate to ask him anything he wants. Yorg finally tells him to leave, and as soon as Almark steps out of the office, he is surprised to see his friends waiting for him. Confused, he asks them why they are here, in reply to which Wendy tells him that Morgan heard that he has to visit the principal's office, so they came to check on him. When he went inside alone and stayed there for a while, they got worried that he was getting punished or expelled. Almark chuckles at hearing their concerns and explains that the headmaster just wanted to know about his experience in the academy. Nelson blames Morgan for lying to them, but he quickly clarifies that he just knew that Almark had to visit the office. Almark stops their bickering as he thanks them for caring about him while thinking about how it is hard to find such kind people in the North. In the North, people usually consider such behavior a vulnerability, but he really likes it, and today, as a native of the North, he somewhat repaid their kindness. Wendy says how they are glad to know that he isn't in trouble, and they all get ready to leave from there, with Almark finally feeling that he belongs to this class. Later, when they are walking back, Morgan excitedly says how Torque is keeping his promise to not discriminate anymore. Almark notices how happy Morgan is, even though Torque is still very egoistic, and he seems not to be affected by what happened the other day. The only positive change is that he stopped using the curse words and didn't even call the Northerners murderers anymore. Julia has the same distant behavior toward him, and Wallace is also caring toward everyone except him. Almark knows that just because Torque has become slightly polite, The class atmosphere is not going to change so soon. One day in class, as everyone greets each other, Morgan bursts in, shouting that something terrible has happened. When they ask what it is, he says he saw a shadow. No one takes him seriously. Nelson jokes that everyone has a shadow and even tries to scare Morgan with his own. Ignoring the teasing, Morgan explains that he accidentally fell asleep after breakfast, and since he was late, he took a shortcut through the forest when no one else was around. He suddenly felt like something moved behind the tree, and his first thought was that it must be a rabbit. When he carefully looked back, he realized that the thing was too talkative to be a rabbit, but it instantly disappeared when he tried to look at it again. At first, he thought it was just his imagination, and he started running again when he felt something passing by him. But when he turned around, the place was empty. Once he finishes his story, Nelson says that in the end he saw nothing, but Morgan insists that he got a glimpse of a shadow. Almark, who is listening to the story silently, looks like he is in deep thought, so Wendy asks him if he is curious about it. Almark replies that he wants to know more as there are many monsters in the north. But Nelson interrupts him, saying that there are very few monsters in the south, so there is hardly any chance that there is something in the academy. He continues that he has never seen anything since he joined the academy, and Morgan also admits that he might be wrong. Almark tells him to still be careful, and Morgan just puts his head on the desk. Wendy is the one to notice again that he looks worried, so Almark tells her how he faced many monsters in the north, so he is a little suspicious, even though they might find it weird. Wendy quickly says that it is not weird and asks him to share some stories, but Almark apologizes, saying that he doesn't have anything special to tell him. Just then Wallace enters the class, telling them the professor will be late, so they have to self-study today. A few days later, Almark is walking back toward the dorms, feeling exhausted by all the studies and intense summers in the north, but he is slightly relieved that the days here are a bit longer. He stops in his tracks when he notices Lily standing there alone. It is very surprising to him since she is usually very timid and gets scared easily, but she is here alone when everyone else is in the cafeteria for dinner. They also need permission to enter the forest after sunset, but instead of dwelling on it any longer, he decides to ask her directly. Walking closer to her, he asks Lily what she is doing here alone this late and asks if she needs his help. Lily quickly replies that he doesn't have to join her as he will miss his dinner, but Almark insists that he will go with her as it is too late already. When he again asks her why she is here, Lily instantly replies that she has lost the handkerchief that her parents gave her. Almark replies that it must be very precious if it is a gift from her parents and asks if she needs to find it today, but the forest is not very safe at night. When Lily mumbles that she is scared, Almark instantly understands that she is hiding something. Lily tells him something, but with how quietly she speaks, he can't understand her. He asks her to repeat herself, and Lily almost shouts that she can't sleep without the handkerchief. Embarrassed for revealing her secret, Lily lowers her head, but Almark quickly assures her he's not making fun of her and encourages her to share, promising to listen seriously. Lily explains that her parents gave her the handkerchief when she moves to the academy. With no friends, she often cried herself to sleep, but holding the handkerchief helped her rest. Now she can't sleep without it. She warns him not to laugh, and Almark gently replies that everyone has something precious to them. He does too. He realizes that if he lost his mother's amulet, he wouldn't wait even a day to search for it. Feeling guilty, he apologizes for saying they'd look for it tomorrow. Lily also apologizes for yelling, but Almark brushes it off and promises they'll find her handkerchief today.
Here I am, know it's been a while.